And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Awkward Guests. Now this is a game that I've already reviewed when it first came out. You'll notice there's a seal of excellence printed on the box, so spoilers. But I reviewed the original game that was only in Spanish, and I had an English translation for the game, and it's almost just very happenstance that I even looked at it, because the game came in, I was like, I don't really like the art on it, it's in Spanish, I don't feel like figuring out how to translate everything. Oh, there's English translation, I don't know. I saw it was a deduction game, and I thought, well, I do like deduction games, but for some reason, I played it and fell in love with it. It was an amazing game, one of my favorite deduction games that I've ever played. I was very excited about it. Now we have a brand new version of the game. It was Kickstarted, did really well on Kickstarter, and it's essentially the exact same game, so my opinion here isn't going to really change, except they've upgraded the components, and now it's a full English version. If you never watched my other review, have no fear. I'll show you how to play the game right now. In Awkward Guests, you are trying to figure out who did it. So there are 7 suspects: Angelica Albinson, the Berwick sisters, Claudette Casalier, Greg Gaffney, Mortimer W. Malo, and Stanley Smith, all who have one big letter, so it's easy to tell them apart. There you have, you have to figure out why they did it. Each of them has 3 different possibilities. So for example, Greg, because the guy stole a recipe from him because there was fixed fights, or animal cruelty, one of those. Then there's a possible weapon, and you can see down here at the bottom, there are 20 possible weapons. We have antifreeze, or rat poison, or a shotgun, or a frying pan. Each of these weapons is located in various places around the house. This also shows the way the house was. We know Mr. Walton, the guy who was murdered here. We know that whoever murdered him started in one of these 4 rooms. They followed these arrows until they got to there. Along the way, they picked up this weapon here, the weapon that was done. And that's it. So to solve this, you need to figure out who, why, and how. And if you're playing a harder case, also, was there an accomplice? And yes, and then who was it and why did they do it? You need to figure that information out. Now, to set up a case, you can go to the book, and in the book there is a bunch of cases where they're going to show the difficulties here, and it's going to show you card numbers here. And so you'll take some time and go through all these cards. There's 243 different cards of the game, and you'll just go through these cards and pull out the ones that it tells you to pull out and shuffle those into a deck. Now, those are not the only cases. There's also an app that you can get online where you can play a random case. So maybe I want to play a very hard case, okay? So I could even pick one I've never done before. And, well, I guess I've never done a very hard case, okay? And then it will go through here, and it will just tell you the numbers that you need to put together. Once you know what it is, you can solve it. You can say who killed him, blah, blah, blah. I can say it was Stanley Smith because of fraternity hazing, and he did it with the Q. Was there an accomplice or not? I'm going to go with no. Okay, that's what I think. Yes? Well, thank you. You can also just see the solution, too, I guess if everybody fails, and it will tell you what happens here. So in this case, for this particular one, it was Angela Albinson with the shotgun, motivated by sinister plans. You're like, hey, you just spoiled it. Whatever. You don't even know what case that was. And there are thousands and thousands of possible cases. There's thousands of possible mixtures of these cards. Each set of cards will generate one exact solution. So the question is, how do you use these cards to play the game? Players are going to have a hand of cards, which is going to give them information about what's been done. And each turn, someone's going to be the lead investigator. That person's going to use the back of the booklet here, and they're going to ask for information about 2 different things. I might say I want to know about Angela and about the kitchen, or I might want to know about the study and the billiard room, or about Mortimer and Stanley. You point your arrows at the 2 things. Everyone else is going to look at their hand of cards. Each player is going to look at their hand of cards. So let's say these are the cards I have in my hand, and I was asked about Mortimer and Stanley. Well, this one says Mortimer and this one says Stanley. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to offer that person these two cards. These cards have a value of 3 total. So I'll put these cards down and I'll put a 3 here on top of them to show that I'm offering a 3 value of clues. Each person will go around the table offering clues, or they may not offer clues at all. You know, they may not have them, or they may not wish to share them. So once everyone has made their offers and puts numbers on them, then the active player is going to decide if they want to exchange clues with these people. So if I want to exchange clues with this person, that person needs a value of 3. And I could give them this 1 and a 2 card. So I'd give them this and take these cards into my hand. Or I could give them just this single card that's a value of 3, and again, take these in my hand. Or I could discard the 3 and a 2, or give those to this person, and take these cards that are worth a value of 5. If nobody makes you an offer, you'll draw 3 off the top of the deck, which is pretty good because you get 3 new clues. But that's a rare thing. And then it's the next person's turn to be the active player. After everyone has had a chance to do this, everyone's going to pick a token and say whether you can solve the case or whether you need to keep thinking. If anyone can solve the case, they'll reveal it, they'll try to solve it. If they figure it out, they win the game. Otherwise, everybody needs to discard cards into this box here so that they're down to just 3 cards, and then they draw back up, giving you more clues, more things to mark off on your sheet. So how do you use these clue cards? Well, you're going to be talking to different various people with these cards. So for example, this card here says, after examining the body, the coroner did not find traces of a dark powder. Now, in this case, for sure, this person is not lying. They're not one of the suspects. So we know there was no dark powder. So I look here, traces of a dark powder. That's the frying pan, the cue, the blunderbuss, and the rat poison. So I can cross all 4 of those out. That's 4 things crossed off, which is why this clue has a value of 3. So here, the housekeeper says that there were 2 people in the library at the time of the murder. So I know that there was 2 people that started in the library. So if 2 people tell me they were in the library, the housekeeper gives me that information. If 3 people tell me in the library, then I know that one of those was lying. Although this game is a little tricky, and I need to remind everybody before I start each game that the Berwick sisters are 1 suspect, but they are 2 people. Here, sometimes you just get something very obvious. The pesticide was not the murder weapon. Tells you very much, and I just cross off pesticide in 1 out of 20. Sometimes cards are going to talk about other people. So here, Greg says that Stanley Smith might have been involved in the murder, motivated by a macrobay bet. So I'll mark one of these little things here next to Stanley Smith. Now, when it comes down to these motivations, if I check off all 3 of these, thanks to 3 different cards, then I know that was the one. So sometimes you can cross one off and know that that's not the case. But if I get all 3 of these small check marks, which means other people, the 2 other suspects do it, and there's corroborating evidence, then I know what their motive is. However, the person who murdered might be a liar. So you're never quite sure. For example, here it says the Berwick sisters claim that they were alone at the time of the murder. If they are the murderers, they might be lying. And you'll find as time goes by that you can also use the map itself. For example, this card here says the service staff reports that none of the guests entered the trophy room from the garage and vice versa. So I can put an X here between the garage and the trophy room. Now that means if I also cross off other entrances into the garage, that all the weapons in the garage are not used. And this shows me the wrench, antifreeze, and leather strap. None of those are the murder weapon. And in fact, if I know someone was in the billiard room and I cross off all the paths to the crime scene, I know that anybody in the billiard room is innocent. And so this is how you use the clues. You're going to be putting clues together, figuring them out. You do not need to see every card in the deck to solve the murder. You just need to see enough of them to figure it out by putting all the different clues together. There's a lot more clues in the game and various types of clues, and each player has basically a big shield here to protect your sheet so other people don't see it. But on this shield itself, it tells you how the different clues work. And so if you get a clue, this will explain a little bit about what they do. And there's variations on these clues, but for the most part, they give you all the information you need until one person figures it out. All right, big giant sheets. You can print out more online, but they're all double-sided. As I do with all my games, I'll be laminating mine. Here we have all the cards. Now, you might say, oh, remember what card 143 is? No, you won't. And if you do, I don't want to play this game with you. The cards are nice, good quality. Everything works well. The one negative that people have about the components of this game is it takes a while to sort out all the cards at the beginning and to resort them at the end of the game. I don't mind that. It doesn't take too long. We have one person read out the numbers and the other people just pull them out of the decks and shuffle them together. I don't think it takes too long. One thing that I complained about the first time I took a look at this was the artwork itself. I thought it was just kind of, well, the people were ugly, but you know what? It's really grown on me. It is what it is, you know. All these characters are very distinct. They have a very cartoonish look, almost Tintin style. And while, you know, you might say, well, this doesn't matter, this discard box, but it really helps remember what cards are in the discard pile and which ones are in the draw pile. And then these other tokens, the arrows and the clues. I still wish maybe there had been a few more of these clue tokens included with the game so that you don't always have to like flip them over. Although if you notice, it does show you in a small number what the number of clues is on the other side. But for the most part, I'm happy with the components of the game. And there you have it. That's Awkward Guests. It is my favorite deduction game. I don't know what it is. I think for me, this is the Cluedo killer. It really is. Clue is a game I played as a kid and even as an adult. And you roll the dice, move around, and try to figure out who done it. Who killed Mr. Body? Here you're trying to figure out who killed Mr. Walton. But this game just has such an interesting thing. There's hand management as you're trying to give these cards back and forth. I'll come back to that. But the deduction aspect of this I really love as you slowly use the clues, put them together, cross off different things on the board, figuring out, you know, they couldn't have gone here, they couldn't have gone here, that cancels this out. And if you play on the hard levels where there's an accomplice, the way the accomplice works is the accomplice didn't actually murder, but they also lie and cover for the murderer. So now you have two possible liars. See, in the easier games, the murderer is the only person who lies. So once I figure out, so let's say, for example, that the Burnett sisters say that they were with Stanley, and Stanley says he was with them, boom. I know they're both telling the truth, because if one of them is lying, they're the murderer, and they both wouldn't lie. When you add the accomplice, it makes it a bit more trickier, and actually, to me, more fun. But following the path, this is not Professor Plum in the study with a wrench, because if you play Clue, you go boom, 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 you figure it out. This takes longer. But there's also the hand management of this, and also the back and forth. If I pass you a clue about Mortimer, and later on you pass me a clue back and the thing is about Mortimer again, I might say, is he going to give me the same clue? Because if you do that in this game, you could give the same clues back to people that they give to you. Then they're less likely to trade with you in the future. So you have to kind of figure that out. And I also want to give you clues that don't help you out as much as possible. Giving someone a level 3 clue is pretty powerful. And all that just comes together. And I like that hand management aspect. I like the deduction. I like the way that this game scales. It's just entertaining. This is my favorite deduction game, just hands down. It is absolutely fantastic. It feels different. And like I said, I've really come around on the look and the artwork of the game. I did not like it initially. Now I'm sitting there going, that really does stand out in the crowd. It feels like something different. So if you've not gotten this game, I give this one of my highest recommendations. It is absolutely fantastic. It is, it's the game I wanted Clue to be. I love it. Awkward Guests. Dice Tower Judgment, the Butler. Excellent.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando, in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower.